The ultimatum. The holographic projection flickered across every screen on Earth, its purple-tinged light casting an otherworldly glow across billions of faces. Supreme Commander Vexthor of the Kraxan Empire stood 12 feet tall, his crystalline exoskeleton refracting light in hypnotic patterns. But Dr. Elena Santos wasn't mesmerized by the alien's appearance. She was analyzing every micro-expression, every subtle shift in his crystalline structure. Humans of Earth, the translation matrix conveyed his words with perfect clarity. Your primitive civilization has been deemed inadequate for independent existence in the greater galaxy. The Kraxan Empire hereby claims your world as a protectorate. Resistance is not advised. In the United Earth Defense Command Center beneath Geneva, Alina's fingers flew across her haptic interface, correlating data points from the transmission. After 15 years studying xenobiology and leading Earth's adaptive defense initiative, she recognized a threat display when she saw one. The subtle shifts in Vexthor's crystal lattice betrayed something the translation matrix missed: uncertainty. "They're bluffing," she announced to the room of generals and world leaders. "Their body language shows stress patterns inconsistent with absolute military superiority." General Marcus Wong, Earth Defense Force Commander, leaned forward. "Explain." The Kraxans evolved from crystal-based life forms. Their entire biology is built on structural integrity. When they're truly confident, their lattice patterns maintain perfect symmetry. Look at the micro-fractures forming along Vexthor's secondary matrix. The room erupted in urgent whispers. Alina continued, "They're testing us. This isn't just about military might. They're measuring our psychological response to pressure." The hologram continued its demands, listing Earth's supposed inadequacies: primitive propulsion technology, limited genetic engineering, inefficient energy production. But with each proclaimed failing, Alina's smile grew wider. "They don't understand us at all," she said. "They're looking for specific technological markers without considering how we achieved what we have. Humanity didn't develop in a linear path like most species. We adapted, improvised, found unexpected solutions." The world leaders debated responses, from immediate surrender to full military mobilization. Alina watched the chaos unfold, her mind racing through possibilities. The Kraxans had made a critical error in their first contact protocol. They'd revealed too much about themselves while trying to intimidate Earth. "We need to respond," General Wong declared. "But how?" Elena stepped forward. "Let me show you something." She pulled up her research files, displaying a complex diagram. "For the past decade, my team has been studying theoretical alien psychology. We've developed protocols for various contact scenarios. The Kraxans fit Pattern 7, a hierarchical species that values structural perfection and linear progression." She highlighted key points in her data. "They expect either immediate submission or traditional military resistance. Their entire strategy will be built around these two possibilities. But humans, we're Pattern 0, the only species we've ever encountered that thrives on adaptive chaos." "What are you suggesting, Doctor?" asked the UN Secretary General. "We give them exactly what they don't expect. No formal response at all. No military mobilization, no diplomatic outreach. Instead, we let them see what humans do naturally when threatened. We innovate." The room fell silent as Elena outlined her plan. It was unconventional, potentially dangerous, but undeniably human in its approach. Within hours, Earth's response began, but not with warships or white flags. Instead, research facilities worldwide initiated Project Quantum Mirror. Elena's team had theorized it years ago, a way to study crystalline life forms by replicating their structural patterns in quantum space. Now, with actual Kraxan data from the transmission, they could perfect it. The Kraxans watched from orbit, their sensors detecting no significant military movement, no mass panic, no usual signs of a civilization in crisis. Just billions of humans going about their daily lives, while in secured labs across the planet, scientists like Elena worked feverishly to understand their would-be conquerors. 3 days after the ultimatum, Alina made the breakthrough. Their crystalline biology, she announced to the Emergency Science Council. It's not just their structure, it's their weakness. They literally cannot comprehend nonlinear development. Their entire society, their technology, their military doctrine, it all follows perfectly predictable patterns. She displayed a simulation showing how Kraxan crystal matrices responded to various stimuli. They expect us to either fight conventionally or submit, because that's all their biology allows them to understand. They're trapped in their own perfection. General Wong studied the data. And how does this help us resist an empire that apparently controls half the galaxy? Alina's eyes sparkled with the same determination that had driven humanity from cave paintings to quantum computers. Because while they were busy building their perfect empire, humanity was learning to break rules we didn't even know existed. They see our primitive technology and think we're weak. They don't understand that humans reached the stars not through perfect progression, but through countless failures, wild theories, and impossible dreams. She pulled up another display, this one showing the results of her quantum mirror experiments. We don't need to match their technology. We just need to show them something their perfect crystalline minds cannot process: human chaos theory in action. As the Kraxan fleet maintained their perfect formation above Earth, humanity began its response. Not with a bang, not with a whimper, but with something far more dangerous: human creativity unleashed. In her lab, Alina watched the quantum patterns shift and morph, mimicking but then transcending Kraxan crystalline structures. They thought they were giving us an ultimatum, she murmured, but they really gave us something far more valuable: a challenge. The first phase of humanity's response was about to begin, and the Kraxans were about to learn why their perfect, predictable universe had always given Earth a wide berth. Some lessons in the galaxy came at a terrible cost, and underestimating humanity was about to become the most expensive one the Kraxan Empire had ever learned. The Silent Strike. Commander James Chen watched the Kraxan warships through the reinforced viewport of Lunar Base Alpha, their crystalline hulls catching starlight like massive diamonds. 3 weeks had passed since their ultimatum, and the aliens were growing visibly agitated. If you knew how to read crystalline body language, which, thanks to Dr. Santos' research, they now did. Their perfect formation is developing microfractures, he commented, studying the tactical display. Dr. Santos was right. They really don't know how to handle being ignored. The Kraxans had expected Earth's submission within days. When that didn't happen, they initiated their blockade, cutting off Earth's access to its Mars colonies and lunar mining operations. Traditional military doctrine would have demanded an immediate response to such aggression. Instead, humanity had done something unprecedented. They'd simply acted as if the Kraxans weren't there. Status report on Project Ghostwalker. Chen asked his quantum communications officer. Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez's fingers danced across her console. Dr. Santos's quantum entanglement network is at 97% efficiency. We're successfully maintaining instantaneous communication with all Earth and Mars facilities without using traditional channels. The Kraxans still haven't detected it. Chen allowed himself a small smile. The aliens had expected to isolate Earth, to cut off its colonies and force submission through strategic pressure. Instead, they'd given humanity's scientists the perfect motivation to perfect quantum communications technology that had been theoretical just weeks ago. And the void spheres, ready for deployment, sir. Dr. Santos' team says they're stable enough for field testing. The void spheres represented another quantum leap in human innovation, quite literally. By studying the Kraxans' crystalline technology through quantum imaging, Earth's scientists had discovered something remarkable: a way to create localized pockets of what they called probability void, spaces where normal physics took a coffee break. In his private quarters, Chen reviewed the classified briefing one more time. The plan was audacious, borderline insane, and exactly what the Kraxans wouldn't expect. Traditional warfare focused on destroying or disabling enemy assets. Humanity had decided to do something else entirely. They were going to make the Kraxans question their own reality. "Begin Phase 1, Chen ordered. Across Earth's near space, invisible quantum transmitters activated. The void spheres, each no larger than a tennis ball, were released from stealth platforms that had been positioned during routine satellite maintenance, activities the Kraxans had dismissed as primitive and irrelevant. The first indication that something was wrong came from the Kraxan flagship. Its perfect crystalline structure began displaying error patterns, subtle at first, then increasingly chaotic. The void spheres weren't attacking the ships directly. They were creating microscopic spaces where quantum probability fluctuated wildly. To the Kraxans' crystalline sensors, it was like trying to maintain perfect order while reality itself became unreliable. "Sir," Rodriguez reported, "we're detecting cascading uncertainty patterns across their fleet. Their formation is destabilizing." Chen watched as the mighty Kraxan ships began to drift slightly out of alignment. To most observers, the movement would have seemed minimal, but to a species that valued structural perfection above all else, it was devastating. Dr. Santos' voice came through the quantum comm. "It's working better than we anticipated. The void spheres are creating quantum uncertainty faster than their crystalline systems can compensate. Their entire command and control structure relies on perfect symmetry and predictability. We're not damaging their ships. We're making it impossible for them to trust their own sensors." The Kraxan response was immediate and exactly as predicted. Ships began breaking formation, trying to escape the zones of quantum uncertainty. Their perfectly coordinated fleet movements deteriorated into individual units seeking stable space. It wasn't panic. The Kraxans were physiologically incapable of panic, but it was something perhaps worse for them: the inability to maintain perfect order. "They're sending out broad-spectrum communications," Rodriguez announced. "First time they've tried to actually talk to us since the ultimatum." "Put it through," Chen ordered. Supreme Commander Vexthor's image appeared, his crystalline form showing visible signs of stress. "What technology is this? Your species was assessed as incapable of quantum manipulation at this level." Chen delivered the response Earth's leadership had prepared. "The assessment protocols you used to evaluate Earth were based on linear technological progression. Humanity doesn't develop linearly. We adapt, we improvise, we create. Your blockade didn't isolate us, it inspired us. This is impossible." Vexthor's translation matrix conveyed, "Your species would need centuries to develop such capabilities." "Under normal circumstances, perhaps," Chen replied. "But humanity has a unique trait. We perform best when you tell us something is impossible. 3 weeks ago, you gave us the ultimate motivation by threatening our world. Did you really think we'd respond conventionally?" The quantum disruption continued to spread through the Kraxan fleet. Ships were now actively retreating from Earth's orbit, their perfect formation completely shattered. They weren't fleeing in fear. Their crystalline psychology didn't work that way, but they were being forced to withdraw by something more fundamental: the inability to maintain the order their species required for basic functioning. In her lab, Dr. Santos watched the data streams with satisfaction. "The beauty of this approach," she explained to her team, "is that we've defeated them without destroying anything. We've simply shown them that their fundamental understanding of reality and of humanity was flawed." Chen received updated reports from Earth's defense networks. The Kraxan fleet was retreating to the outer solar system, their ships struggling to maintain basic operational coherence in the face of the quantum uncertainty fields. But this wasn't just a victory over one alien fleet. It was proof of concept for a new kind of defense. "Dr. Santos," he called over the quantum comm, "how long until we can expand the void sphere network?" "That's the interesting part, Commander," she replied, excitement clear in her voice. "While the Kraxans were busy maintaining their perfect blockade, we were studying how their own technology works. We haven't just developed a defense system. We've gained insights into crystalline computing that could revolutionize human technology. Sometimes the best way to learn is from those who underestimate you." As the last Kraxan ships disappeared into deep space, Chen reflected on how quickly everything had changed. 3 weeks ago, Earth had seemed helpless before an overwhelming alien force. Now they had quantum communication, probability manipulation technology, and a deep understanding of crystalline computing. "Send word to all commands," he ordered. "Phase 1 is complete. Begin preparations for Phase 2. Let's show the galaxy why humans are not to be provoked." The message went out through the quantum network, invisible to conventional detection. Humanity's response to the Kraxan threat was just beginning, and the galaxy was about to learn an important lesson about the danger of assuming that technological advancement only followed predictable paths. The reverse engineering. A damaged Kraxan scout ship lay in the secure underground facility beneath the Atacama Desert, its crystalline hull dimmed but still occasionally pulsing with residual energy. Dr. Elena Santos moved carefully around its perimeter, her quantum scanner mapping every microscopic facet of its structure. The ship had been caught in one of their void spheres during the retreat, its systems destabilizing enough to force a landing. "It's like reading poetry written in mathematics," she told Commander Chen, who had flown in from Lunar Command to witness their progress. "Their technology isn't just crystalline in structure, it's crystalline in thought. Every system follows perfectly predictable patterns, building on itself in endless fractals." The lab around them hummed with activity as the world's brightest minds worked to understand alien technology that, by all rights, should have been centuries beyond their comprehension. But that was the thing about humans. Tell them something's impossible, and they'll work twice as hard to prove you wrong. "The Kraxans made a fundamental mistake in their assessment of Earth," Elena continued, bringing up a holographic display of the ship's internal structure. "They looked at our technology and saw what wasn't there, the perfect progression of development they considered normal. What they failed to see was what we had instead: countless parallel developments, failed experiments that led to unexpected discoveries, and solutions that made no sense until they worked." Chen studied the display, noting how the alien ship systems interconnected in precise, geometric patterns. "Can we replicate any of this?" "Better." Elena's eyes sparkled with excitement. "We can improve it. Look here." She zoomed in on a section of the ship's computational core. "The Kraxans build everything on perfect symmetry and predictability. But in doing so, they've created systems that are fundamentally vulnerable to chaos. It's not just the void spheres. Their entire technological philosophy has a critical weakness." She pulled up another display, this one showing human design modifications to the crystalline systems. "We've been running simulations combining their crystalline computing with quantum uncertainty principles. The results are extraordinary. Imagine a computer that doesn't just process information, but actively explores probability space. The Kraxans use crystals for perfect order. We're learning to use them for controlled chaos." In the months since the Kraxan retreat, humanity had been far from idle. The void sphere network had been expanded throughout the solar system, creating a defense grid that would make any future invasion attempt problematic for crystalline-based technology. But that was just the beginning. "Show him the Nexus," Elena told her assistant, Dr. Amit Patel. Amit activated a sealed chamber in the center of the lab. Inside, a human-designed crystalline matrix pulsed with swirling colors, nothing like the rigid patterns of Kraxan technology. "We call it the probability nexus," he explained. "It's a hybrid system combining their crystalline computing principles with human chaos theory. While their computers can only follow predetermined paths, ours can explore every possibility simultaneously." Chen watched the colors shift and flow. "And this gives us an advantage." "More than an advantage," Elena said. "It gives us a revolution. The Kraxans built their empire on the assumption that technological development must follow a fixed path. Their entire civilization is built on that principle, but we're proving that assumption wrong with every new discovery we make." She led them to another section of the lab where teams were working on various pieces of hybrid technology. "We're not just learning to use their technology. We're learning to use it in ways they never imagined possible. ways that, according to their understanding of the universe, should be impossible. Dr. Santos, a young researcher, rushed up, tablet in hand. We've decoded another section of their historical database from the ship. You need to see this. The data revealed something startling. The Kraxans weren't just an empire. They were the enforcers of what they considered proper evolutionary and technological development throughout the galaxy. They had suppressed countless species that showed signs of deviant development patterns. This explains so much, Elena murmured. They're not just conquering for power or resources. They're trying to force the entire galaxy to develop according to their idea of proper order. And then they found us, Chen added, the most deviant developers of all. Exactly. But here's the interesting part. Elena highlighted a section of the data. There are other species out there who've resisted their influence. Not many, but they exist. Species that, like us, found different paths to advancement. The implications were enormous. Earth wasn't just fighting for its own survival. It was unwittingly becoming a symbol of resistance against enforced technological conformity. The Kraxans' attempt to subjugate Earth had instead created something far more dangerous to their empire. Proof that their fundamental beliefs about technological progress were wrong. We need to reach out to these other species, Elena said, not through traditional channels. The Kraxans monitor those, but with our new quantum communication technology. Chen nodded slowly. We could build an alliance, not based on military might, but on shared innovation and resistance to enforced conformity. Better yet, Elena added, turning to the probability nexus, we can show them new possibilities. The Kraxans forced every species to follow their path of development. But humans, we've never been good at following paths. We make our own. As if in response, the nexus's colors shifted into a new pattern, one that would have been mathematically impossible according to Kraxan physics. But that was humanity's greatest strength. Doing the impossible had always been their specialty. Begin Protocol Prometheus, Chen ordered, naming their next phase after the mythological figure who gave forbidden knowledge to humanity. It's time to share our fire with the galaxy. Elena turned back to the captured scout ship, its crystalline structure now seeming less like an advanced alien artifact and more like a symbol of limitation. The Kraxans thought they were containing a primitive species, she said. Instead, they've unleashed something they never accounted for in their perfect calculations, human ingenuity unchained. The probability nexus pulsed with new patterns, each one representing a possibility that the Kraxans had never dreamed of. In trying to force humanity to follow their path, they had instead inspired humanity to forge a new one, not just for Earth, but for every species that had ever dreamed of breaking free from the crystal cage of enforced order. The revolution was about to begin, and it would start not with a battle, but with an idea that the path to the future didn't have to be perfect to be right. The unexpected alliance. The quantum message arrived encoded in patterns of probability fluctuation that would have been meaningless to conventional sensors. It came from a star system that, according to Kraxan star charts, was supposed to be uninhabited, deliberately marked as a failed development zone. Dr. Elena Santos and Commander Chen watched as the probability nexus decoded the transmission, converting quantum uncertainty into clear communication. The message was simple but profound. We see what you have done. We want to learn. The sender identified themselves as the Viridians, a species that had been supposedly cleansed by the Kraxan Empire centuries ago for refusing to follow the approved path of technological development. Instead, they had gone into hiding, developing their technology in secret ways that the Kraxans' rigid scanning protocols couldn't detect. They're not the only ones, Elena said, reviewing subsequent transmissions that had begun arriving from across the galaxy. The Kraxans' perfect order has created shadows throughout their empire, places and peoples that exist in the gaps between their crystalline certainties. Chen studied the growing star map of hidden civilizations. How many? Dozens of species, maybe more. Some hiding in plain sight, others in dimensional pockets, quantum states, or other spaces the Kraxans can't comprehend, all of them developing along paths that the Empire declared impossible. The probability nexus hummed as it processed communications from these shadow civilizations. Each had found different ways to resist the Kraxans' enforced order. The Viridians had mastered quantum state manipulation. The nexus, no relation to their device, had learned to exist partially out of phase with normal space. The Drift Collective had turned their entire civilization into a probability wave. But they've all been isolated, Chen noted. Fighting alone, hiding alone, developing alone. Until now. Alina brought up the specifications for humanity's quantum communication network. We're not just giving them a way to talk to each other. We're proving that the Kraxans' fundamental assumptions about technological development are wrong. In the weeks that followed, Earth became a nexus of hidden knowledge and forbidden innovation. Through quantum channels undetectable to Kraxan sensors, representatives of the shadow species began arriving in secret. Each brought their own unique perspectives and technologies, their own ways of defying the Crystal Empire's perfect order. The first physical meeting took place in a secure facility, deep beneath the Mariana Trench. Elena found herself surrounded by beings that defied conventional description. Viridians who existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously, Nexus ambassadors who phased in and out of reality, Drift Collective entities that appeared as probability clouds in roughly humanoid shapes. Your species has done something unprecedented. The Viridian representatives' quantum states coalesced enough to communicate directly. You didn't just resist the Kraxans. You proved their entire worldview wrong. We had an advantage, Elena replied. They never gave us a chance to learn their rules, so we never felt bound by them. The meeting quickly turned to strategy. Each species shared their understanding of the Kraxan Empire's weaknesses, their methods of resistance, their technological innovations. Humanity's probability nexus became a central point of discussion, not because it was more advanced, but because it represented a fundamentally different way of thinking about technology. You've combined order and chaos, the Nexus ambassador observed, their form shifting like smoke. We all found ways to hide from their order. You've found a way to transcend it. Commander Chen, attending virtually through quantum projection, outlined the next phase of Earth's plan. The void spheres were just the beginning. With your help, we can develop technologies that don't just resist their order. They transform it. The Drift Collective representative, a shimmering cloud of possibilities, added their own insight. The Kraxans believe they maintain order in the galaxy, but they have created something far more dangerous, a reason for all of us to work together. As the meeting progressed, a plan began to take shape. Each species had developed technologies and strategies that the Kraxans couldn't comprehend. Combined, they represented not just resistance, but an entirely new way of existing in the universe. We're not just fighting against their empire, Elena realized. We're creating something new, a civilization that embraces diversity and development, that sees different paths as strengths rather than deviations. The quantum communications network was expanded, linking hidden worlds and civilizations that had never before been able to contact each other. The probability nexus evolved, incorporating insights from species that had spent centuries thinking in ways the Kraxans had declared impossible. But it was humanity's contribution that proved most crucial. Not their technology, but their perspective. Your species does something none of us learned to do, the Viridian representative observed. You don't just accept different paths of development. You actively seek them out. You thrive on finding new ways to solve problems. It's not always an advantage, Chen admitted. Our history is full of paths that led nowhere, or worse, to disaster. But you kept trying. The Nexus ambassador's form solidified momentarily for emphasis. Even after failure, even after being told something was impossible, you kept looking for new ways. Elena looked around the room at these beings that defied Kraxan reality, each a testament to the fact that there was more than one way to advance, to exist, to thrive. Then let's show the galaxy what happens when we all try together. The alliance that formed in that underwater facility wasn't based on military might or economic power. It was founded on something the Kraxan Empire, with all its perfect order, could never understand. The strength that comes from embracing chaos, celebrating difference, and turning impossible paths into new realities. As the representatives departed, each returning to their hidden worlds, through methods that defied conventional physics, Alina and Chen began preparations for the final phase. The Kraxans had thought they were containing a primitive species. Instead, they had created the very thing their perfect order feared most, a union of everything they had tried to suppress. The revolution was about to begin, and it would shake the galaxy's crystalline certainties to their core. The revolution. The Kraxan Empire's capital world, Crystallis Prime, hung in space like a perfect geometric dream, its crystalline cities refracting starlight in mathematically precise patterns. Supreme Commander Vexthor stood in his command spire, reviewing reports of unusual quantum fluctuations throughout the Empire. Something was wrong, but according to all established models of reality, what was happening should have been impossible. They discovered just how impossible when the revolution began. It started not with weapons or warships, but with a signal, a quantum cascade that rippled through the Empire's crystalline networks. Dr. Elena Santos and Commander Chen watched from Earth's Quantum Command Center as their plan unfolded. Initiating Protocol Prometheus, Elena announced, her hands moving across the probability nexus's controls. Transmitting now. The signal carried more than just data. It carried proof. Proof that the Kraxans' perfect order was not the only path to advancement. Proof that chaos and uncertainty could be sources of strength rather than weakness. Most importantly, it carried the combined knowledge of dozens of species that had found different ways to progress, to exist, to thrive. They're trying to block the transmission, Chen observed, watching the Empire's defensive networks activate. But the signal, designed with input from every member of their hidden alliance, slipped through the crystalline barriers like water through cracks. Across the Empire, the effects were immediate and devastating. Not to infrastructure or lives, but to the very foundation of Kraxan authority. On thousands of worlds, suppressed species began receiving the signal through quantum channels the Empire couldn't detect. The message was simple but revolutionary. There is another way. The Viridians emerged from their quantum shadows on 100 worlds simultaneously. The Nexus people phased into reality in the heart of Kraxan cities. The Drift Collective manifested in probability storms that the Empire's perfect sensors couldn't comprehend. And humanity's contribution tied it all together. The proof that a species could advance not despite chaos, but because of it. Their control systems are failing, Elena reported, watching through quantum feeds as the Empire's perfect order began to fragment. Not from attack, but from exposure to possibilities they were programmed to reject. The revolution weaponized something the Kraxans had never considered dangerous: information. Every suppressed innovation, every alternate path of development, every impossible advancement was broadcast throughout the Empire. Their perfect crystalline networks, designed to maintain order, became conduits for chaos. On Crystallis Prime, Vexthor watched in disbelief as his empire's fundamental assumptions crumbled. How? He demanded of his advisors. How can they violate the natural order of technological progression? The answer came not from his advisors, but from a quantum projection that appeared in his command center. Elena Santos stood before him, her image formed from probability patterns that shouldn't have been stable. There is no natural order of progression, she explained. The universe doesn't follow a single path. Life doesn't develop in straight lines. Evolution, both biological and technological, thrives on diversity, on trying new paths, on learning from failure. This is madness. Vexthor's crystalline form showed signs of stress. Without proper order, without correct progression, civilization cannot advance. Look around you. Elena gestured to the quantum feeds showing scenes from across the Empire. These species you try to suppress haven't just survived. They found ways to advance that your perfect order never imagined possible. And now, together, we're showing the galaxy that there are as many paths to the future as there are species to imagine them. The revolution spread not through violence, but through revelation. On every world in the Empire, crystalline barriers designed to enforce technological conformity were bypassed, transformed, or simply rendered irrelevant. The void spheres, now enhanced with innovations from a dozen species, created spaces where rigid Kraxan control simply couldn't function. Commander Chen, coordinating from Earth, watched as centuries of enforced order gave way to something new. They never understood, he said. The more they tried to impose perfect order, the more they created the conditions for this moment. They gave all these species a common cause. The probability nexus pulsed with activity as it coordinated the efforts of their alliance. Each species contributed its unique innovations: Viridian quantum state manipulation, nexus phase technology, drift collective probability manipulation, and human adaptability, tying it all together. They thought they were containing chaos, Alina observed. Instead, they were creating a pressure cooker of innovation. Every species they suppressed found new ways to develop, new paths to advance. All they needed was a way to share what they'd learned. The crystalline spires of Crystallis Prime began to shimmer with new patterns, not the rigid geometry of Kraxan order, but the flowing, evolving forms of natural growth. The Empire's perfect timeline of technological progression shattered, replaced by a web of interconnected developments, each following its own path while contributing to the whole. Vexthor, watching his perfect world transform, finally understood. "You didn't defeat us," he said to Alina's projection. "You changed us." "No," she corrected. "We showed you what you've been missing. The strength that comes from diversity, from trying new paths, from embracing the chaos that drives evolution itself." The revolution ended not with the fall of an empire, but with its transformation. The Kraxan Empire, built on enforced order, became the heart of something new. The Galactic Coalition, where different paths of development were not just tolerated but celebrated. Years later, Alina stood in the new Coalition Council chamber, a structure that combined Kraxan crystalline architecture with designs and technologies from dozens of species. The chamber itself was a testament to their victory. It existed simultaneously in normal space, quantum states, and probability fields, accessible to all member species regardless of their form of existence. "We didn't just prove them wrong," she told Chen, who now served as Earth's representative to the Coalition. "We proved that being wrong, trying new things, failing, learning, adapting, is the most powerful force in the universe." The probability nexus, now a galaxy-spanning network of interconnected innovations, pulsed with the combined knowledge of hundreds of species, each following their own path while contributing to the whole. It stood as a testament to the truth that the Kraxans had never understood. The most perfect order is the one that emerges from chaos, driven not by enforcement, but by the endless creativity of life itself. And at the heart of it all was the lesson that had started everything. Some species are not to be provoked, not because of their weapons or their technology, but because they might show you a better way forward, whether you're ready for it or not.